All right, Dr. Gina. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a good conversation because I think number one, we're going to talk about something that doesn't get spoken about enough for women. And then I would say number two, it's an area people misunderstand
Yeah,
definitely in this space. So
yeah.
before we get into it, before we get into our topic of du jour, tell me a little bit of how you got into naturopathic medicine and research and product development. You've had a really illustrious career. I'd love to hear your story.
So, I mean, from when I was in elementary school, I would walk around saying, "I'm going to be a doctor." Period. I'm going to be a doctor, and then I'm going to be a tap dancer on the side so I don't get bored. But I was just always wanted to be a doctor. So that was like, who knows where that came from, but it was always there. And then when I was getting ready, I was at UCLA getting ready to prepare for medical school. My academic counselor gave me a brochure for a naturopathic school. And at the time, I would be like off in the library researching nutrition. And even though I wasn't studying it in school, I was always really interested in it and nutritional supplements and just fascinated by that whole area. And so he's like, "Gina, this sounds more like you. You might want to," and I come from, my uncle was the head of the immunology department at UCLA Medical School, and I was at UCLA, so of course I was going to just go that route, and it made sense at the time. But I come from that, so, but I see this brochure and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can be a doctor and actually do what I really believe in and embody and am really passionate about. So that was it. I went and met with the founder of the new accredited naturopathic medical school in Arizona. And that's it. I just jumped in and I never looked back. And so, but while I was in school, it was actually Mike Murray, Dr. Mike Murray, had given a little intensive, and it was right when I started. And he was working for a nutritional supplement company at the time and talking about product formulation. And something about what he said, I was like, that's what I want to do. I knew it then. Like, that's why I'm here. And so I started to work while I was in school to help pay for school. I worked for supplement companies doing research, writing, educating doctors in the clinic about different supplements and all that. And then it just built from there. Just and slowly but surely I started to formulate more and more products and loved it. And it came naturally to me. Um, and so, yeah, I started my own practice. I was hired as the director of research for standard process nutrition, and that really, allowed my career to take off in the area of product formulation, product development. Um, I was the president of the California Naturopathic Doctors Association, so I got into the political side of things, which was a good learning experience. While I was there, we created the Merging Medicines series, so the continuing medical education program. Um, and I was really focused on making sure that we included medical doctors and acupuncturists, not just because we were so like, all about naturopathic medicine, so protective of, our profession, rightfully so. But I was real adamant about making sure that we were including all the other healthcare professionals and collaborating, and just making sure that we were offering continuing medical education credits that worked for not just naturopathic doctors. So it's about, because really it's about collaborating. It's what I love to do. Um, and yeah, and then I was hired to research glutathione in my practice. Yeah, because I created the purification program for standard process. And so they wanted me to look at glutathione as it related to detoxification. And I'd always used glutathione in my practice. I learned about it in school, but it wasn't until I was hired to actually really do a deep dive into glutathione that I was like, why doesn't everybody know about this? This is amazing. There's over 100,000 clinical studies on glutathione. Why? And so that really, it was because I was hired to really research it that I got really into it and involved. And from there, I was invited to give a lecture in London to like over 600 healthcare professionals from all over the world. And I asked, hey, how many of you guys use glutathione in your practice regularly or are familiar with it? And it was a small fraction of the professionals that rose their hand. Like, really? This is amazing. And I was giving a lecture on glutathione, detoxification, and neuroinflammation, and just really passionate about, because of this was before COVID, but even at the time, it was like neuroinflammation was starting to become a big thing, and looking at how that impacts attention deficit disorder, autism, depression, anxiety, insomnia, a lot of psychiatric challenges. And so, yeah, it was at that time that I kind of said, I want to come out with a glutathione that tastes good, smells good, is accessible to everybody, and really make glutathione a household name. So where everybody knows about it. And it's not this, the secret, best kept secret among some integrative healthcare practitioners. And so here we are. During COVID, I formulated the product. I say it was divinely inspired, this formula. It was like, I just was adamant. I was sitting there homeschooling my young daughter, and I'm like, she needs this. Everybody needs this. How do we make it taste good and still be bioavailable and work? And I liked pixie sticks as a kid. And so I was like, I want to make a formula that tastes like a pixie stick but has no sugar and is good for you, that kids can take, have in their lunchbox, adults can take and enjoy. And so, yeah, here we are.
Yeah, and as a glutathione connoisseur over the last 20 years,
Yeah.
when we're talking about good taste and smell, that is a legit concern because glutathione is sulfur bearing, so it smells like rotten egg, tastes like rotten egg if you're not really, really artful in how you put it together. And I love your products because I as a kid, so
Yeah.
this is for all the people that are like, would I like them? As a kid, I love pixie sticks. I like the tart.
Yeah.
So if you like tart things, this is like the ultimate. Like I get a pixie stick every day.
I know. I mean, I crave them now.
Mhm.
I really do. It's like there's just something about the formula. And again, I just wrote it out, sent it to the lab, got back the sample, and loved it right off the bat. I haven't changed anything about the formula. Right. And I started using it with little kids in our neighborhood and friends, and everybody's like, this tastes really good. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. So for my listeners that may not be fully aware of glutathione and its function, let's talk a little bit about it. Its biochemical function, how it works in the body. Give them a
Yeah.
run.
So glutathione is a tripeptide. And what that means, it's a combination of 3 amino acids, like glutamic acid, glycine, cysteine. And it's a potent detoxifying agent. So it's one of the most important compounds that your body uses to take chemicals that you're exposed to, or even chemicals that your own body manufactures, and turn them into a form that they can get excreted from your body. So it's a very potent detoxifying agent. It's essential for the whole detoxification process in every cell in your body. So there's this human detoxification system. It's so powerful to your overall health and well-being, and keeping inflammation down, dealing with hormone imbalance, you name it. The human detoxification system plays a key role, and glutathione is, like, I see, the main component in that whole process. It is, I call it the mother of all antioxidants, because it's really like that master antioxidant. It's very powerful. It's as important as vitamin C, if not more important. They work together. But it's found, like I said, in every cell in the body. Something real interesting about glutathione is that I didn't know until I really researched it is the brain has less of a concentration of glutathione than the rest of the body. And so, yeah, and we know that exposure to certain toxins, in pesticides, environmental compounds, it causes the brain to become inflamed, and it can lead to all sorts of mental health challenges, anxiety, depression. It can impact autism, attention deficit disorder. It can also affect Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease, cognitive decline, brain fog, all of that. And one of the reasons the brain is more vulnerable to these toxins causing these issues is because it has a lower concentration of glutathione. And glutathione is like that powerhouse compound that helps to take any exposure to toxins and protect the brain from harm. So, yeah.
So, you know, one of the things that I think is funny, and you probably agree with me, is, you know, a lot of over the last 20 years, I wrote a book in 2009 about detox way back in the day, you know, before it became really popular, because I was doing classes and I had, you know, everybody coming out of the woodworks wanting me to like send my PowerPoint. I'm like, well, how about I write a book about it? And, you know, there's always this popularity of the idea of a juice cleanse detoxifying. And I snicker and I'm like, oh my gosh, no. I'm like, we need foods that have amino acids, particularly those three, to really help with glutathione. But we have to have amino acids, and I'm sure
Yes.
hair stands on end when people say that. It's like, okay, straight biochemistry. Don't listen to people who don't understand biochemistry.
No, I mean, it's like, oh gosh, we could have a whole discussion just about what you just said.
I know, I know.
I mean, protein deficiency leads to glutathione deficiency, which compromises detoxification more so than most things that you can do. And so those amino acids, like you said, are so critical for detoxing. Yeah. And when I created the 21-day purification program originally for Standard Process, I mean, protein is a really important part of the program. And so juice fasting, I mean, look, avoiding processed foods and avoiding dairy and gluten and all the biggies, the main food allergens, of course, yes, that's going to lower the burden on your body. Yes, you know. But a lot of people who have any sort of adrenal gland insufficiency, which most people these days do, doing a juice fast can stress those adrenal glands out even more. And so, yeah.
Yeah, we actually, our clinic was one of the clinics that did the validation studies on the cleansing program for Standard Process, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Oh,
When we did, you know, testing to validate, you know, clinical outcomes.
yes.
So
Wait, when was that?
we did that several years ago. It was
Okay.
I want to say it was before the pandemic, if I remember
Okay.
correctly. All those years are
Yeah.
running together for me now.
No kidding. No kidding. Like, yeah. Oh, well, thank you for doing that. That's
Yes.
great. Yeah. I mean, the standard process program has been around for 20 years, you know,
Yeah,
like a long time. It's tried and true because it's like, it's real. It's real and it's not just a quick fix, and it really does change people's behaviors so they get long-term results, which is why I created this kind of a new generation of that program that's more specific for women going through perimenopause and menopause. And I integrate glutathione, this formula, into that program because it just helps more with hormone balance and neuroinflammation, all the things that we women deal with as we're going through that phase in life. So,
absolutely. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about that. Most of my listeners, at least if they've been listening for a while, they at least have probably a cursory understanding of hormones, and that it's not just about the hormones we make, but it's about the environmental hormones that we come in contact with, and then how we get rid of it in that sort of complex packaging process the liver goes through. So talk about that process, particularly glutathione's role, because I don't think it gets noted enough.
so there's a conjugation pathway, you know, in the liver, and basically you're exposed to chemicals or toxins, and the liver, and through this pathway where glutathione is essential, glutathione basically binds to these toxins and converts them into a form where it can get excreted as, you know, water through your system. And then that glutathione gets oxidized and it gets recycled, and it's this process that occurs, but it's happening 24/7. And yes, when you're talking about hormones, the liver is essential to that whole process of hormone balance. It is so critical. Even when I was in naturopathic school, one of the first things I learned for women who were having trouble with fertility, for example, is detox the liver. Start there. You always start with detoxing. Same thing with women going through perimenopause and menopause. You have to help your body clear chemicals and environmental toxins that mimic estrogen, like xenoestrogens, from your body in order to have hormone balance and not have the symptoms, hot flashes and so forth. And so, yeah, even if you're taking bioidentical hormones, it's not just about taking the bioidentical hormones in the best form and all of that. It's about how well is your body clearing those hormones as well. So you have to have that balance in place. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, as somebody who spent a lot of time in the genetics and then hormone metabolism was my dissertation, actually looking at the hormone metabolites. So you and I are speaking
Yes.
the same language.
Yeah.
There is so much genetic variability there that can really overload the system and make it very difficult for somebody to clear those toxins. And conventional medicine has pretty much ignored that entire, function of the body.
Right.
And, glutathione is so essential. You could do all the B vitamins and everything else that you want, but glutathione's at the end of the road. It's like it's got to be there.
Yes. And it seems like, I mean, I'd be curious, and maybe the statistics on like the incidence of genetic defects along that glutathione, either manufacturing or recycling pathway. I'm going to guess that it's gone up. Like the number of, I mean, we didn't have the testing available back when, but I'm going to guess that it's gotten worse over time. Yeah.
My assumption is too, there's so for everybody that's listening that may not know what we're talking about, when you have genetics, that's your cookbook to tell your body what to do, like make glutathione as one of the ingredients. Well, we have all these different paragraphs that tell us to do that. The glutathione pathway is the one of the most profound pathways that may have a spelling error. So you kind of, it's kind of like when you read an email and it's got a spelling error, you go, oh, I know what they're saying. It's just your grammar police comes out and says, okay, it's not perfect. So the body, that's a spelling error known as a SNP. But glutathione is also a place where you can have entire paragraphs missing. So all of a sudden it says, go add this ingredient. And you go, what ingredient? What is supposed to happen? Or now that you're done making it, here's how to recycle it. There's a lot. I don't know what the stats are, but it is pretty significant. I happen to be heavily mutated there, you know,
Okay. Yeah.
which is kind of why I went down the estrogen metabolism sort of pathway
Uh-huh.
from a research standpoint. So it's
Mhm.
really common. It's really, really common. I think much more than anybody understands. But, I think you would probably agree with this. The reality is, even if you don't have mutations there, you could use glutathione. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so women who do have those mutations I know it depends on kind of like where your genetics are from, whether, you've got Mediterranean background, African American background, seem to be areas where there's more vulnerability there. But again, there's more research to be done in that whole area. But yeah, depending on if you have a genetic aberration, for sure you need glutathione or forget it. Like, I don't know how you're going to get to a balanced state. I really don't. But yes, even if you don't, are the volume of exposure to toxins is so high now, and our bodies have not evolved to the point of being able to handle that sheer volume of exposure to toxins that we are facing, right? And so that's why we're seeing more symptoms of menopause, and just more symptoms. And so even if you don't have a genetic aberration, you benefit from glutathione. That's why I call the product best daily ever. And it was really about, like I mean, so you can do an IV of glutathione, you can do injections of glutathione. There's different ways to take it. Dr. Patel, I always talk about this. Dr. Patel, he wrote The Glutathione Revolution, and he'll say IV glutathione is an utter waste. It's just a waste. It doesn't even get into your cells, and it's a waste. And I would say, I don't know that for sure. It makes sense to me, but glutathione is under tight homeostatic control, which means too much is not good and too little is not good. It's about balance. So I thought, okay, well, look at what nature provides in terms of food sources of glutathione. Increase it a little because we have a higher demand for it now, and introduce that on more of a daily or at least 5 days on, 2 days off schedule, so that you're not burdening your body by giving it too much. You're helping to work with your body that's trying to maintain this homeostatic control or balanced amount of glutathione. That just makes logical sense to me. And so, yeah, introducing it on a day-to-day basis at a dose that's not going to burden your body, but just support you.
I'm glad you said that because, you know, I think even looking at the literature, yes, a glutathione IV push probably harbors 99% of its activity in the liver, and a huge percentage of it probably gets peed out, honestly. But yeah, you need it every day because the only way it gets into the cell is for it to get past that sort of controller mechanism that says, okay, I'm going to divvy this. And the holy grail of anti-aging is to raise glutathione inside the cell.
Inside the cell.
Inside the
Yes.
cell, not
Gotta
just
get
getting
in
the
there.
blood and getting urinated out, but inside the cell. And we don't know how to measure that in a true way. We can extrapolate and guess to it, but we don't really know.
Yeah, we don't. And that's, we were having a conversation earlier about the testing. And I mean, it's tough to know because, every cell in your body has glutathione, it's manufacturing glutathione. Your levels change, fluctuate throughout the day too, depending on what you're exposed to. And so it's real tough to test for it. You can do measure the ratio of glutathione to oxidized form of glutathione, things like that. But to me, just looking at big picture as a practitioner in the trenches with patients, like what I'm interested in what's actually working with my patients. Yeah, I'm a dork when it comes to analyzing data and all of that. But at the end of the day, like we have to be realistic and look at what's going to give our patients the biggest bang for their buck, that's going to be as safe as possible, that's going to work to help them with their symptoms and prevent problems. And that's where I see with glutathione in particular, using it more on a daily type basis. And that's not to say if you have a major pathology, like whether it's Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or things like that, I'm not opposed to giving glutathione injections or anything like that. But in general, like having something that you can take regularly that's going to actually boost your levels and work and deal with your symptoms ultimately. And that's what I see in my practice is this is working. It's working. So we're on to something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So now that we've discussed kind of what it does and how it works, talk about, so obviously it's really important to women's detoxification. Where else do you see this sort of play out for midlife women? I know I have my opinions of where it probably plays out pretty heavily, but what other things should women be considering looking at glutathione for sure?
Insomnia.
Yeah.
It works. And there is good research. There's research on, looking at glutathione as it relates to insomnia, particularly in that perimenopausal years, but even before that. So definitely for sleep issues, foggy brain, supporting immune function. It plays a really important role in if you're exposed to different viruses, mold, bacteria, etc. Glutathione is a very important component in helping your body to manage that and keeping your immune system strong. And so for immune support, it's really important. If you're an athlete, it helps with recovery, lowering inflammation, energy. It helps with energy. And I'm real passionate about the brain part of it as well. So if you're dealing with symptoms of inflammation in your brain, which happens a lot, especially post-COVID, brain fog, try glutathione. Try glutathione to help you to be able to, think clearly, etc. again. So because it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. See, I don't think glutathione gets talked about enough, particularly in the avenue of exercise. The more athletic somebody is, they'll go, oh, no, I have a great diet. I'm really athletic. I'm like, oh, hold on a minute. Your need for antioxidant just skyrocketed,
Oh,
particularly
yeah.
if you're doing endurance, right? So,
Yes.
so hit home, especially around that oxidative stress side of that, because I just don't think people realize how damaging and also good exercise is at the same time.
Yeah, again, it's that balancing act, and so, um, especially if you're an endurance athlete, it's great. But there is a breakdown process that is occurring, and you are increasing oxidative stress, which basically means creating free radicals, creating these toxins. So you're actually creating your own toxins. it can be good because it kind of pushes the body to adapt to that, but too much is not good. And then you start to have breakdown and oxidative stress. And that's where you have, you can, whether it's painful joints, whether it's just, it's wearing away at your body. You want to support it with antioxidants. That's so important, so important to making it so you can continue to do those things that you enjoy athletically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's yeah,
It's
important.
definitely one of the most important nutrients necessary, yeah, for the
Yeah.
athletes. Everybody watching the Olympics, that are like way into it. It's like,
Oh
yes,
yeah.
we need to take care of ourselves. All right, so let's
Uh-huh.
talk a little bit about your formulation in particular. People may have tried glutathione. Tell them a little bit about the caveats of the different preparations of glutathione, right? Because there's a lot of different things on the market and there's different
Yeah.
bioavailability, and I think that's important
Yes.
for people to understand.
It's really important. So glutathione in general, when you take it in an oral form, doesn't work. It's not bioavailable, and it oxidizes, and so you're not taking something that's actually going to help your body and give you the results you want. So that's real important. There are certain forms of glutathione now today, and the only reason why I knew about it was because I was hired to research it originally. That's why I had no idea that it existed, and so there are forms. They are expensive and they're branded, and there's double-blind placebo-controlled studies backing their use, proving that they boost blood levels and red blood cell levels, and so they work. And so there are now oral forms, but most don't work. There is something called liposomal glutathione, and that's what I used to use in my practice because that is an oral form that works. However, it tends to taste bad. And so I always had trouble with patient compliance, especially in kids. I couldn't get kids to keep taking a liposomal form. I didn't like taking it. It would sit in my refrigerator and I would never touch it because it tasted gross. And so
Right,
that's
if you
the
get yourself
challenge.
worked up for it, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going
Yeah.
in. I'm going in for the glutathione.
Right, right. And now, over the years, there are some that taste better than way back when. But it's such an individual thing. Some people are like, no, it tastes disgusting. Other people can tolerate it. So that's the oral forms. You can take glutathione in what's called a nebulized form, right? Where you're basically inhaling, it's going down into your lungs. And that can be important, like if you're dealing with an upper respiratory infection and things like that. And that also, then you really get to know the smell and taste of glutathione if you're taking it in a nebulized form. It's not the easiest thing to take. You can also take it as an IV. What?
And it's relatively hard to get. It's, you have
It is.
to,
Well, these days,
yeah,
it's
it's real
really
hard.
hard.
Even if you have prescription, it's hard to get.
Yeah, it's like you have to go make it yourself. Or inject. You can do an injection, an intramuscular injection,
Mhm.
or an IV. Or other forms. There's a couple topical forms that are good.
Do they absorb well? I was curious. I haven't actually done the deep dive on that.
They, yes, if it's the right. So a lot glutathione, it has to be like the tripeptide is rather large, and so it doesn't get absorbed well. And so it depends on the formula. If it's a topical formula, it really depends on which one you're using because no, they are not all created equally.
I was thinking, yeah,
That's
that
on my list of new things to come out with. I would like to do that. But first things first. But yeah, so you can there are some that you
okay.
can get in topical form that work too. So
Now let's talk specifically about your combo because obviously you've got glutathione that's highly absorbable, but there's some other very unique things that you've done to your formula to make it taste better, but it also has additional benefits. So let's talk about that.
sure, yeah. And so when I went to figure out how to sweeten the glutathione, I used glycine. One of the main reasons was because it actually is one of the components that makes up glutathione. So I thought, okay, then it will help with more manufacture, giving your body what it needs to make its own glutathione as well. Glutathione has a very slight sweet taste to it, and I've always used it as a sweetener in my formulas. And glycine is great for detoxification. It helps with GABA production, so it's calming. GABA is a calming brain chemical, so it helps with calm. It also helps with weight loss So glycine can help with stabilizing blood sugar. It can help with appetite. So it also can help with weight loss. So glycine is an important component. I also added magnesium glycinate, zinc, vitamin D3, and vitamin C. And so it's really an all-around immune support formula as well. So, yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Now, do you have recommendations on when somebody take glutathione? Is it better to take it certain times a day or after particular things?
So, the pixie sticks, I'm kind of like, take it whenever you want. Like you can take it on an empty stomach, you can take it with food. It works both ways. Uh, there's a capsule. I have a capsule form as well. It's Formula One, and that one I would say take it before bed. And the only reason I say that is because the body manufactures glutathione while you're sleeping, and so work with the body, to encourage more production. But in terms of the pixies, you can take them whenever you want. If you have issues with hunger or cravings for sugar, definitely try taking a pixie first, even just part of one, and see what it does, because it really does just cut that that need to go for the sugar right away. And so it can be real helpful for that. Just how, like, I have them on my desk, anytime I'm like feeling like I want to grab something, I'll just have some of a pixie stick and then I'm fine. So yeah.
What about the highly sensitive person? Some people, they probably have had mold toxicity, Lyme, all kinds of stuff, and
Yeah.
they're sensitive to everything. How might you recommend they look at the best daily ever pixie stick and kind of look at dosing for those super
Yes.
sensitive? Because we know you're
Yes.
out there, people. We know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I'm sensitive to their sensitivities. Totally.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we have an adult pixie stick and a product, and then we have a kids. And the kids, it's basically here. I have one here. It's half the size. So it's the exact same formula. It's just half the size. I would say get the kids. And you can take two of them as an adult, but start with one pack. If you're getting even some into your system, it's working. And then slowly, even if you take half of a kid's stick pack to start with, right?
Mhm.
And then maybe 3-4 days in, take one per day for another 3-4 days, and then try taking two. It may take a while for you to feel comfortable and be able to tolerate it, because you are detoxifying by taking glutathione. And so I would say get the kids one. Some people like them better anyway, just because it's smaller.
Mhm.
And so, but two of these is the adult dose per day. But that I would just consider that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
and I
start slow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can't remember how
And
much is the dose on an adult dose. What's the
It's
milligrams?
it's yeah, so it's 250 milligrams of the branded, stable, bioavailable form of glutathione, paired with 500 milligrams of a buffered form of vitamin C, not corn derived, non-GMO, because vitamin C helps with the cycling of the glutathione and vice versa. And then yeah, so that's the dosage of the glutathione.
And would you say is there any population that you would say maybe you don't want to do glutathione or don't start there that you can think of?
I'm so biased. At this point, I'm like, who doesn't need glutathione?
Yes.
Even animal, I give it to my dogs. My daughter has a horse. My horse takes best daily ever capsules too. So, I'm biased, and I would say I don't know, of a population that wouldn't benefit from some glutathione. Again, in more of a physiologic dose, in a reasonable dose, not high dose. But if you're doing it consistently, just like when I talk about detoxification,
Mhm.
it's so important, the human detoxification system, and you know this really well. And I always tell patients, do one thing every day, whether it's sauna or exercise or hydrating more than usual or dry skin brushing. Just kind of get into that mindset that you are doing one thing at least every single day to support this daily process that's going on. second by second process that's going on. So support what your body's already doing for you. So,
Yeah, I think people need to always hear that because I hear a lot, it's like, well, I can't do all of this, so therefore I'm doing none of it. It's like, no, it's like you're slowly doing something. You're always making it more positive.
yeah, and supporting the human detoxification system in terms of bang for your buck is a good idea. I mean, it's worth the effort and the focus because truly we are exposed to so many more toxins and they are associated with pretty much every health challenge that you face. There is a toxin component to what's going on with you. There is. And so again, kind of getting in that consciousness of, okay, this is really important. So every day we're all so busy and doing so many things. How do you know what to focus on, right? But every day do something that supports your detox mechanisms. That's a good decision. So,
So you also have, like you said, your purification system, which is, a system you put together to help people kind of kickstart their detoxification, especially women in perimenopause and menopause. Tell me a little bit about that. Obviously you use the glutathione in it. You've got some dietary changes. What could somebody expect from that?
so yeah, I created my first purification program 20 years ago, 4 standard process, right? And it's one of those tried and true programs that works. And so I started there. And then I thought, of all the different populations who need to detox, the women in those perimenopausal and menopausal years, I feel are not supported the way they deserve to be supported. Women
100%.
need, truly, and it's such a misunderstood time of life for women. And and there are ways that we can support women going through this where they are thriving and actually doing better than they ever have before, and they could be in better shape than they've ever been before and healthier and all of those things. But we need to support them. And so I decided to really focus the purification program on women going through these hormonal changes that happen over like a 10-year span. And so it's 21 days long. It's a diet and lifestyle program, but there are meal replacement shakes that you drink. There's capsules that you take, and there's glutathione that you take. Glutathione being super important for detoxification and also for hormone balance in women dealing with symptoms of menopause, whether it's foggy thinking, insomnia, hot flashes, low sex drive, all of those things, dry skin, etc., low energy. And so this program is really designed more for those women. Um, it pretty much is an elimination diet where for the first 10 days you're avoiding packaged foods and dairy and grains and all of that. You're really focused more on vegetables and some fruits and hydration and sprouted seeds and these meal replacement shakes. And then there's a second phase of it where you introduce lean protein. Whether you're a vegan or, a carnivore, there are options for you, but you start to introduce the lean protein. And then I meet with everybody. We're on a regular basis, and it's really about having the support of the group as you go through something like this. And I always say, look, you can buy a juice fast, or you can buy a purification program online, but for you to really get the results that you want and to maximize the benefits, it's hard to do it on your own. It just is. And so having the support of other women going through what you're going through, and there are so many tips and tricks to succeeding on the program and making it easy. So it's not, you can still work out, but you're getting results. So that's the idea behind me creating that program.
Yeah. I think it's great. It's always part of what I do with people is help them detoxify, help them clean things up.
Yeah.
Especially as if somebody is looking at doing hormone replacement, bioidentical, you kind of want to prime the pump and make sure that, the trash men work really well and you can get all the stuff to the dumpster, regardless of whether it's yours or something you add.
I love your analogies. They're great. I want to borrow them. I love them. But yes, exactly. I mean, to me, my patients, you don't take bioidentical hormones without doing something to support detoxification. And my patients at this point, we put most patients through a 21-day purification program
Yeah.
and then test. and then introduce hormones as appropriate. So,
Yeah.
and then they're required to stay on glutathione while they're on any hormones.
Yeah, we're always supporting the entire detox pathway, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are missing. A lot of people are trying to jump into the hormone replacement arena,
Yeah.
and they're putting people on bioidentical hormones, but they're not checking how they move them. Can they move them out? Can they detoxify them? What's really going on? And I think that's, like in our practice and even on the telemedicine side, it's a no-go. Like we have to check, and we have to manage.
I mean, you have to, and that's, yeah, it's unfortunate because there are a lot of women who will try hormones and then not get the results they want, or they'll feel worse.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is because their detox system isn't being supported.
Yep.
It's like if you balance the human detoxification system and the hormone system, you get those two systems balanced and aligned. Is there really any symptom that you can't address? I mean,
Yeah.
but
Huge.
they work together. And so you have to support both.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree. Completely agree. Okay, so in the notes from today's discussion with Dr. Gina, we're going to have a link, obviously, to the purification program so people can check it out. Now, of course, everybody's going to want to take the Best Daily Ever, for sure, because I'm telling you, as somebody who has been a glutathione connoisseur, no joke, it is actually really good tasting, and you kind of want to take it, which is not usually the case of glutathione. So I believe we have a link specifically where we can give 15% off the first order for Best Daily Ever, and that website is bestdailyever.com/REF/106. And then there'll be a little 15% coupon that you can use, and we'll put that in the notes too, so you can try it out. And like I said, I have done them all. I've done IV, I've done intramuscular, and I play around with a little bit, of all of it, depending on what's going on. But I always take glutathione every day, and it's good.
Wise woman.
And the added glycine just makes it even better.
Right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
No.
Dr. Gina, it has been wonderful having you on. Is there any last words you want to tell my listeners, like last little parting bit of wisdom?
Listen to what Dr. Murray says, because she's, she definitely, if you are a woman in those perimenopausal, menopausal, or middle-age years, what she's sharing is invaluable and can change your life. So keep listening. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening today. And if this was an awesome show for you, do me a solid. Go and hit the 5-star so other people can find the podcast and learn just like you. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.